Good evening. Welcome everybody. Thanks for attending. 7:02 right now. I think we'll just probably give it maybe another minute or so to see who else will be joining here, and then we will get the presentation going and deal with some of the introductions and everything for tonight's Public Information Center regarding the North Caledonia employment lands. Right, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us for this public information session on the North Caledonia employment lands and setting up some of the land use provisions for those lands in North Caledonia. My name is Shannon Van Dalen. I am the Manager of Planning and Development with Haldimand County, and I am helping to facilitate tonight's session. As we get started, just a quick note to let you know that this session is being recorded and will be posted. We'll be posting a copy of the presentation to the North Caledonia Employment Lands Feasibility and Servicing webpage afterwards with some additional information there. And to start, I will be reading the land acknowledgement. So the Haldimand County Land Acknowledgement is as follows, and thank you. As we gather, we humbly acknowledge that Haldimand County sits on the ancestral land of many generations of Indigenous nations who have been here since time immemorial. Today, this land continues to be home to many Indigenous peoples, including the Six Nations of the Grand River and Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, as well as non-Indigenous settlers from a variety of backgrounds. As a community, we have a shared responsibility for stewardship of the land on which we live and work. We are grateful for the opportunity to work together and to share the land we call home. Acknowledging reminds us that our living conditions are directly related to the abundant resources of the Indigenous peoples. We commit to continue learning, reflecting on our past, and working in allyship with Indigenous communities towards respective community goals and objectives in peace, respect, and friendship. So in order to help keep tonight's session running smoothly, all participants' cameras and microphones have been turned off. But we do have a chat kind of question and answer function that is part of tonight's session. So if you do have any questions or comments, please use that Q&A function. Feel free to send them in as anything comes up if you have any thoughts that are there. Amanda from WSP, the consulting group, and I will be monitoring that and kind of keeping track of any questions and items that come up. And the panel will be looking at answering and having responses to any items that come up at the end of tonight's presentation. And just ask to please remember to keep communications clear and respectful. We'll do our best to get through any questions that have come through. There may be some that are of a similar vein, so we might group those through together. But like I said, we'll do our best to answer everything and respond to questions or comments that come up. So with that, thank you again for attending tonight, and I hope you find this information session helpful. And with that, we'll get started, and I'm going to pass the meeting presentation over to Neil Stoop, and we can get going in terms of the different components and projects that we see here today.
Thank you, Shannon, for providing that logistical information for tonight's open house. Here we have on the screen just a brief overview of the purpose of tonight's meeting, an agenda, paving the way for where we're going to go. We're going to start by talking a little bit about the background, the history, how we got to where we are now. Then we're going to hand the presentation over to our colleagues at WSP for an overview of the official plan amendment that they've been putting together. Then Haldimand County staff will take the microphone back, so to speak, to go through the zoning bylaw amendment that we've been working on in conjunction. And then we'll have an opportunity to discuss next steps and answer the questions that are coming in through that Q&A tool. So just before we get going, there are a handful of us who do have cameras and microphones on here. In lieu of maybe complete introductions, we can do some of those when we get to the panel at the end, but I will highlight that my name is Neil Stoop. I am the Supervisor of Planning and Development, and I'm the project lead for Haldimand County. On the consulting side with WSP, we had Robert Rapolt, who was the project lead on their side. As Shannon's already mentioned, Amanda is also with WSP working with Rob, and also joining the panel from Haldimand County is Mike Evers, the General Manager of Development Services, and Lydie Romanek, the Manager of Economic Development and Tourism. So to provide some context, maybe before we jump into what's new, I think it's important to take some time to go over some of the project background and highlight how we got to this meeting today. So on this slide, is a high-level overview of the major milestones for the North Caledonia employment lands. The work on these lands really started back in 2017 with an economic development strategy that identified shovel-ready industrial and commercial lands were needed within the county and for the future of the economic development of the county. A similar conclusion was reached during phase 1 of the last comprehensive official plan review. So that review included a land needs assessment, which confirmed that the county did not have enough employment lands to meet our projected needs. Approval of the phase 1 official plan update by council and subsequently the province added what is now known as the North Caledonia employment lands to the Caledonia urban boundary, setting the stage for the development of those lands. So after those lands were added to the boundary, the county's economic development team and a group of consultants launched the North Caledonia Employment Lands Feasibility Study. So that's highlighted on this slide in 3 points, really across 3 phases. So this study considered the lands as a whole to ensure they would be developed to meet their intended purpose. Well, the study is reduced to 3 bullet points on this slide. It was a multi-year effort with updates to council in consultation with the public, landowners, and other interested parties along the way. Following the completion of the 3rd phase of that study, staff were directed to undertake the necessary steps to amend the official plan and zoning bylaw to implement those findings and recommendations. And that's what brings us really to this meeting. So back in September, county staff, along with staff from WSP, started working on this land use planning framework. We had one prior meeting with a group of landowners who will be directly impacted by these amendments. And now we're here having this virtual open house with the larger public to share where we're at today. So again, this is just some more project context on that North Caledonia lands feasibility and servicing study that was completed. When we get towards the end of the presentation, there is a web link to the website on the county website that has all these information. So if you're interested in any of the phases of the study itself or the reports that went to council, those are all available online, and we do have that link at the end of the presentation. So jumping into where are the North Caledonia employment lands? We have them here on this air photo outlined in yellow. So generally they're bound by Mines Road, Greens Road, and Highway 6. Here on the air photo, we can just get a bit of an appreciation for the underlying land uses currently. There are some land uses scattered along the Highway 6 frontage, and there are some lots that exist along the Greens Road frontage, but largely these lands are under agricultural cultivation today, though they are already within the urban boundary. So here we have the map that came out of the feasibility study. This map really is meant to be informative and useful for planning purposes. However, it is expected that it will be refined and amended as development moves ahead and studies are completed with the individual sites within the area. So some highlights of this map that some people may not be familiar with is through the middle we have a conceptual Highway 6 extension or bypass. And that's referenced a few times when we get to some of the policy sections. So if you're questioning where that is, that's the general location of that proposed bypass. There's also a preliminary road network and some thoughts about stormwater management and things like that that have gone into the development of the policies, but also the creation of this map. So one last timeline. We've been working since last December to bring ahead these amendments. Neither the official plan amendment or the zoning bylaw amendment have been finalized, and changes to them are anticipated based on the feedback starting tonight and up until the statutory public meeting at Council and Committee, which is currently scheduled for May 19th. That statutory public meeting at Council and Committee also allows an opportunity for members of the public to speak directly to Council with your comments. If you wish to submit comments in writing ahead of that meeting, you are encouraged to submit them prior to April 20th. There's going to be some emails at the end of this email the end of this presentation that you can send those to. So comments received before April 20th can be considered and included in the staff report. Comments received after April 20th will still be shared with Council, but unfortunately at that point the staff recommendation report will have already been drafted, so they may not be considered in the text of that report. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Rob at WSP to go through the official plan amendment.
Thanks very much, Neil. Appreciate the introductory remarks and the background context. Very important to help contextualize the official plan amendment and some of the information that I'll share about the draft official plan amendment. Just real quickly, as Neil mentioned at the outset, my name is Rob Rappelt. I'm a land use planner with WSP and the project lead for the official plan amendment. I was also part of a broader project team on the feasibility study that Neil described previously. So I do bring some institutional knowledge and familiarity with the background and the context of the employment lands, which has supported informing the draft policy framework. I wanted to start with some broad objectives that the draft official plan amendment contemplates. And before I go into the details on this slide, I will just reiterate that the official plan amendment is very much in draft form right now. This meeting represents an opportunity to provide input and feedback on the information that we're sharing this evening, and then there'll obviously be a further opportunity at the statutory public meeting that Neil alluded to previously. So we do encourage good participation tonight. This is a great opportunity to share some initial feedback with the project team, which we can then take away and consider when reviewing the official plan amendment and the implementing zoning bylaw amendment prior to bringing that forward to Council at the statutory public meeting. In terms of the vision for the official plan amendment, this establishes the overall and longer term intent and provides some guiding direction for how the employment lands are envisioned to support the economic growth of the county and specifically within Caledonia, but it is a county scale employment lands. And I'll just read the vision statement, and I think this gives a good sense of how the work that was done through the feasibility study and the intent of the employment lands are intended to evolve and develop over time. So the North Caledonia Employment Area is a comprehensively planned strategic employment area that supports local and regional economic prosperity. Its location and proximity to major transportation corridors and regional and international markets support the attraction of investment, local job creation, and strengthens the county's economic base. So it is true that the employment lands are strategically located. They have good proximity to local and regional markets, good connectivity to major transportation corridors, including 400 series highways, as well as the John C. Munro International Airport in Hamilton. So they're very well positioned to have a very strategic and key role in both the county's economic growth, but also regional economic growth. Supporting the vision are several key objectives or takeaways, if you like, that the official plan amendment contemplates. The first is to strengthen the economy, and by this we mean diversify and grow the county's economic base. So really understanding and envisioning through the policy that the employment lands will support and accommodate long-term economic growth, providing local jobs and overall growth of the economy. Further to that, and secondly, create jobs and stay competitive. It's a rapidly evolving economic conditions, both locally within the province and internationally, and it's important that the county plans for this employment growth and permits an appropriate range of uses and ensures that the lands are developed in a way that will support their long-term plan, form, and function with regards to accommodating local employment growth. Cross-jurisdictional coordination is very important. This principally includes dialogue and continued partnership and collaboration between the county and the province to coordinate the necessary investments and development within the employment area to support businesses and landowners and really realize the full potential for local and regional economic growth to be accommodated within the employment lands. Fourthly, to meet density targets. So Neil mentioned that the lands were brought into the urban boundary of the county because there was an identified additional lands that were needed to accommodate forecasted employment growth within the county. And so in order to ensure that the lands are able to accommodate that growth, there's a certain number of jobs that need to be created and sustained within the employment lands. Phased growth with capacity. So as we'll discuss further through this presentation, there are some additional considerations around servicing within the employment lands, as well as transportation and the nature of development and the timing of the development that needs to be aligned with the ability for the necessary servicing and infrastructure investment to keep pace with growth within the employment area and to ensure that the appropriate level of infrastructure is provided to support the uses and the businesses that will be located there. It's also important as an extension of that to be fiscally responsible and align development with infrastructure capacity and optimize the efficiency of the servicing, being mindful of the county's resources. Also, deliver high quality design, which can encourage attractive, well-designed development, integrate open space and natural areas. Many of us have probably driven past employment areas that are in strategic locations and function as gateways to a community. This is certainly one that will do that within the county, and it's important not only in terms of attracting businesses to the employment area, but also, again, as that gateway and entrance into the community, that there's heightened design considerations so that the overall character and function of the employment lands is well intended and has good visual aesthetic. Protection of the natural environment is critically important. And so where feasible and in line with the existing county and provincial practices and policy with regards to environmental protection, ensure that natural heritage features and functions are maintained through development. This is next is use infrastructure efficiently. This is an extension of ensuring phasing, but also the provision of necessary servicing and investment in that infrastructure to align with growth within the employment areas and development within the employment area. And lastly, to engage partners and communities. This is critical. There's been a tremendous amount of consultation that's occurred through the feasibility study and has carried on through this implementing official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment. And the project and the draft documents have really benefited from that, and that will continue to be a cornerstone in terms of how the employment area is developed and how it grows over time. And the draft official plan amendment policy emphasizes the need for ongoing consultation with landowners, businesses, stakeholders, and Indigenous communities in this regard. And lastly, use implementation tools. So through the Planning Act and the Municipal Act and other various provincial statutes, there are different tools and instruments that are made available to the county to support growth and development within the employment area. And many of these are contemplated through the county's existing official plan. And the official plan amendment simply recognizes that and encourages the county to continue to use those tools and instruments, including such things as holding symbols, for example, as well as community improvement plans and servicing agreements. Next slide, please, Neil. In terms of the types of land uses that would be permitted within the employment area, there was a recent change in 2024 from the province to the range of uses that can be permitted within designated and protected employment areas. And certainly not the intent of the county or of this draft official plan amendment to further restrict the range of uses beyond what the province requires. So in other terms, we've endeavored to permit and provide as much flexibility and permissiveness as possible in terms of the range of uses that are permitted within the employment area. This includes manufacturing, which includes research and development that is incidental to that manufacturing, warehousing and distribution facilities, retail uses provided that they're accessory to one of those principal uses, including logistic and transportation facilities. Accessory to incidental to a permitted principal use. Outdoor storage. Outdoor storage is very key for a number of different types of employment area uses, including warehousing and manufacturing, of course. Research and development laboratories and facilities and similar uses, data centers, and accessory uses to those uses listed above. And the implementing zoning bylaw will establish more detailed land use permissions, and Neil will speak to that shortly. Next slide, please. In terms of development criteria, the official plan amendment policy does propose to establish specific criteria that must be satisfied in order for development to proceed within the employment area. And this is really reflective of some of the considerations around servicing, transportation connectivity, and the required studies to ensure that development proceeds in an orderly manner. First, the policy contemplates a servicing hierarchy. So the preferred form of servicing is full municipal water and wastewater. If that is unavailable, partial servicing may be permitted. If neither full municipal servicing or partial servicing is available, private servicing may be considered subject to a zoning bylaw amendment. And where it can be demonstrated to the county that no other type of servicing is feasible and that there'll be no negative impacts to adjacent lands or the future provision of full municipal services. So a key outcome of the feasibility study was some constraints around the ability to provide full servicing to the employment area, at least initially. But there, obviously, through the official plan amendment, the county recognizes the importance of encouraging and supporting development within the employment area. And so the intent of the servicing hierarchy is to in part recognize that and provide a degree of flexibility while still moving the needle towards ultimately having full municipal servicing. Further to that, interim solutions are permitted. Partial servicing, for example, is permitted where municipal wastewater may not be available, at least initially. It discourages water-intensive uses that would apply additional pressure to the capacity of the system. And in this regard, the policy contemplates that proposed uses should not require significant water consumption for production, manufacturing, refining, or assembling. So any type of use that would have a heightened or an abnormal use of water. Engineering justification is required as a criteria in terms of serving solutions that require a report confirming on-site feasibility and that, again, there's no adverse impacts to the natural environment or other private systems, either on the property or adjacent properties. A development agreement may be required that properties must connect to municipal services when available, and cost sharing for future servicing, installation and connection may be required as part of that agreement. And further severances may be permitted subject to criteria. So in the aerial map that Neil shared previously, the parcel fabric or the delineation of the individual properties was shown. Obviously, the OPA contemplates that over time the employment area will be subdivided into much smaller, more fine-grained parcel fabric and individual lots, and certainly recognizes this, but also need to ensure that development occurs in an orderly manner. Lastly, I'll just note that there are other studies that may be required given the specific context of the employment area and technical inputs, such as those related to transportation, so traffic impact assessment, for example, demonstrating compliance with land use compatibility or the provincial D6 guidelines, which ensures no negative impact to surrounding sensitive uses, for example, or the encroachment of sensitive uses on heavier, more intense uses. And other similar type of technical inputs that would be required to the satisfaction of the county or the conservation authority or other regulatory bodies. So with that, Neil, I'll pass it back to you to walk through how the zoning bylaw aims to implement this more specifically the policies of the draft official plan amendment.
Thank you, Rob. All right, so just jumping from one amendment to another. The zoning bylaw amendment is to amend the zoning bylaw. The zoning bylaw is where the rubber meets the road to implement the direction of the official plan. So the zoning bylaw needs to be amended to allow for the development of the North Caledonia employment lands in keeping with the direction that Rob outlined in the official plan, which was informed by the North Caledonia employment lands feasibility and servicing study before that. So the zoning bylaw will outline permitted uses, set the development standards, and implement a holding provision that will ensure technical matters are addressed prior to the development occurring on the lands. So based on the findings of the North Caledonia employment land studies and the directions of the official plan, we have a list of permitted uses here that will be permitted as of right on these lands. So these were arrived at, they were informed by that provincial sort of framework that Rob commented on at the beginning, the study of the North Caledonia employment lands, and the direction that was developed by WSP through that official plan. So for those familiar with some of the other studies that have occurred here, some of the language might differ a little bit. And this list here is actually uses that are already on our zoning bylaw. Most of them are permitted in many of our industrial zones. And while the language may differ, these are all defined terms in our zoning bylaw and often capture things that maybe aren't completely intuitive. So for some of those listening who are maybe wondering if there's permitted uses that are missing or are maybe shouldn't be here, feel free to look those definitions up in our zoning bylaw or reach out to myself following this meeting or pop a question in the Q&A, and we can certainly follow up and provide some more information for you. I'll also just note over on this slide, we do have two marked with the superscript A, and those are identifying uses that are permitted but would only be permitted accessory to another permitted use. And that's just in keeping with the format that we use in our zoning bylaw currently. So getting to the development standards, so the development standards are largely in line with the existing general industrial zone from the Haldimand County zoning bylaw, with a few sort of exceptions as are highlighted on the slide. So notably, lot lines and yards adjacent to the proposed Highway 6 bypass that I highlighted when we had the map up are to be treated as exterior side yards even before that bypass is constructed. So that's really an implementation recognizing that at some point in the future, the MTO might be looking to build a bypass or realign Highway 6 through there. And we need to be able to protect that corridor to allow that network and that connection to happen. Another is that we're going to permit development on partial services. So Rob alluded to this as well in his conversation. But it's expected that most developments will have a water connection, but not a municipal wastewater connection. Typically, development in an urban area and across Ontario, but in Haldimand as well, in our official plan and our zoning bylaw, is required to connect to complete municipal services comprising of both water and those wastewater systems. Parking and loading requirements. I want to highlight that the required parking and so no changes to the size or number of parking and loading spaces is contemplated currently in the amendment, but there is a shift to encourage those or require those parking areas to not be located in a front or exterior side yard. That has several urban design benefits, but it also makes the space more inviting for various forms of active transportation. I also want to highlight, while I have this slide up, that the amendment is not proposing to alter any environmental or hazard land overlays, and policies protecting those areas or protecting us from those hazards will continue to apply. So Rob mentioned the use of a holding provision, and he also mentioned several technical studies that may be required prior to development occurring. And so a holding provision is proposed to be applied to the lands to ensure that those technical matters relating to individual sites, individual developments, or areas within the overall employment lands are addressed prior to development. So the holding provision would only be lifted when the included matters are addressed to the satisfaction of Haldimand County. So the identified matters at this time are the entrance into a development agreement, which in most cases will be a site plan agreement, but depending on how the lands develop, may be a subdivision agreement. For these lands, it will also include a servicing agreement requiring the landowner who developed on partial services to connect to full municipal services as they become available. We will also confirm that appropriate and sufficient servicing capacity exists for a proposal, a specific proposal. Confirmation that environmental matters have been adequately addressed for the particular development. So this would be a review of the applicable policies at the time of application, the submission and review of any environmental studies that are required, or confirmation from a qualified expert that the policies have been met and those studies are not required for a particular development. We'd be looking for the completion, acceptance, and registration of an archaeological assessment, the completion of an urban design brief or study as applicable, and confirmation that all land use compatibility measures have been addressed. This will largely be through confirmation of conformity with D-Series guidelines at the provincial level. So that's the general summary on the zoning bylaw amendment as it's currently proposed. So we've touched on this a few times, but from here, county staff, along with staff from WSP, are going to go through this question and answer evening with everyone here this evening. Hopefully receive some comments following this meeting and leading up to, or as we draft our report and leading up to the statutory public meeting. And really through that process, we're looking to refine the official plan amendment and the zoning bylaw amendment based on that feedback that we're receiving. Once we've had a chance to refine those matters and write our recommendation report, we're currently targeting to bring this forward at the May 19th council and committee decision or meeting for a decision by council. So as I've highlighted before, I'm just going to throw the dates out again. Comments received prior to April 20th can be included and considered in the staff recommendation report. Those received after April 20th will be shared with council, but not included in that recommendation report. And then there is also an opportunity to share your comments directly with council at the statutory public meeting as part of the May 19th CSC meeting. So all it is to say, we've shared our draft materials where we're at today, and is the culmination of multiple years of study and work on the lands with various county departments and consultants. But we're still refining that process, and we're not here to make decisions tonight. We're here to answer questions and collect that feedback. So with that, I'll open up for questions. Here's the slide I promised with my contact information, Rob's contact information, and the link to the North Caledonia Employment Lands page on the Haldimand County website. I recognize that that's a bit of a long link. If you Google NCEL Haldimand County, it's the first hit as well. Save you a few keystrokes. So with that, maybe I'll turn it back to Shannon, who's going to moderate our question and answer session tonight.
Thank you, Neil and Rob, for your presentations and going over the information tonight. Very helpful in terms of setting the stage and understanding kind of the intention and direction for the North Caledonia employment lands. I have been watching our Q&A section here. And at this point, we don't have any questions or comments that have been posed at the moment. I'll just maybe take a moment here just to kind of note again across the top. You should see the ribbon band there with the Q&A kind of little question mark section there. Just looking to see if anybody has any comments or questions that they would like to pose to excuse me, Rob or Neil. Or, as noted, we also have Lydie Romanuk, who is manager of economic development and tourism online as well. Yeah, just looking out there to see if anybody has any comments or questions. As Neil did note, that there is some more information on the Haldimand County website. So it's a good resource to look at from there in that perspective. And as I noted at the outset of our presentation here tonight, this this stream has been recorded and will be available online as well. So if you wanted to go back and listen again, kind of take a second look and look at some of the supporting information along with that, that will be available to everybody as well. Once we get to that statutory public meeting, there will be notice that will be provided ahead of that session as well. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything at the moment. Maybe I'll just, I'm going to look across.
Shannon, there is a question in the chat, in the Q&A from Frank Rewald. I think you just have to hit the purple button at the top.
Oh, there it is. Thank you. Thanks, Frank. So is there a time frame for water services to the site? Not specifically at the moment. I will note that Haldimand County, together with Engineering and Capital Works, I will be initiating a Caledonia Master Servicing Plan that should be kicked off and initiated, I'm going to say, within the next month or so. The request for proposals has gone out, and our Engineering and Capital Works group are looking at retaining a consultant to look at that. And part of that will evaluate what water and servicing will look like, as well as transportation for the North Caledonia area. Mike Evers has put up his hand. Mike, I'll let you kind of add to it here if you'd like.
Thanks, Shannon. Yeah, Mike Evers, General Manager of Development Services. Great question, Frank. I think just to add a little bit more to what Shannon shared, there is a water transmission main that runs within the Highway 6 corridor in a north-south direction along the east side of the study area. And what was identified when we did the feasibility study over the last couple of years was that extensions could come off of that transmission main. Would ultimately have to have certain length and have to be looped, etc. But those extensions into the development lands would be driven by developers, and they would be what we consider a local service. So it wouldn't be the county initiating the extension of the water. It would be developers working with the county on reviewing their plans, and then ultimately developers driving that extension forward into the actual area itself. But the transmission, so the conveyance of water to the area, is by and large already in place vis-a-vis the transmission main that runs within the Highway 6 corridor.
Great, thanks, Mike. Couple other kind of questions have popped up here. So Just one of the questions was just confirming we can send questions to the county tomorrow. Absolutely. As noted, both Neil and Rob's email addresses are on the screen. There's also some further information on that North Caledonia Employment Lands website through the county's website. So both opportunities exist in terms of reaching out, follow-up questions, comments, anything like that are available as well. Another question that was posed here is how many access points are being proposed to or from Highway 6? So I think Neil's just going to go back to the kind of the feasibility study and the draft concept here in terms of the phases. So at this point, Neil, did you want to respond or?
Sure. So, I mean, when we had the slide up before, I really wanted to highlight and hammer home that this is a concept plan, so it's not set in stone. This isn't, we don't have a crystal ball to know exactly the order the development's going to take, who the development might be, the size, scale, etc. But right now, the contemplation is essentially one sort of primary connection to the existing Highway 6 corridor, sort of where I assume you can see my mouse, but sort of where I'm circling with my mouse. And if you can't see my mouse, it's about 3/4 the way up that Highway 6 corridor. So that's sort of the anticipated single connection. But as this progresses, as development interest comes forward with specific plans, it is anticipated that there will be traffic impact or transportation impact studies and traffic impact studies that are completed at that time that either refine this concept or refine the location and number of access points off of Highway 6.
Thanks, Neil. I will just maybe add to that is the area is still under MTO control and jurisdiction. So MTO permits inevitably will still be required from the Ministry of Transportation as well. And I will look to Mike, who has raised his hand as well.
Thanks, Shannon. I just wanted to add to Shannon and Neil's comments. For those who are wondering why only one access and why it's located or conceptualized as it is where it is, because it is an MTO controlled corridor, there are certain setback requirements that the MTO has in place. And in this particular situation, the MTO has a certain setback requirement for tie-ins to this stretch of Highway 6 from the Highway 6 and Greens Road intersection. And I believe that the setback requirement of the ministry is in their policy book 1,000 meters. But they are willing to consider a road connection as close as 800 meters from the intersection, provided it's supported by traffic impact study, those types of things. What is shown in the image that's in front of you right now is an entrance point that is about 900 meters from that intersection. So it's kind of that midpoint between their absolute setback requirement and then the low end of what they would be willing to consider. And that, of course, can be adjusted in a northerly direction in future if studies suggest that it needs to be, whatever the case might be. That would ultimately require a push of those blue stormwater management ponds to another location. So some re-engineering there, notwithstanding there is a bit of flexibility as it relates to the exact orientation or location of that road. But that's just a little bit of extra to give those who are tuning in a better sense of why one access and why it's located as far up the subject lands as it is.
Thanks so much, Mike, for that additional commentary. And maybe just to tag on that, also, with recent conversations that kind of the county has had with the Ministry of Transportation, is that looking for kind of the private property owners, private developers, in terms of proposals, to work on their own traffic impact studies, and then work independently and kind of cooperatively with MTO directly. And then, excuse me, there's not going to be kind of a larger multi-development TIS that's being undertaken. So the encouragement is for any local developers that are looking to move forward to prepare their own traffic impact study and work directly with the Ministry of Transportation. As noted, the Ministry of Transportation is looking to host their own public information center session in terms of the intersection of Greens and Argyle and Highway 6, which will also potentially tie into connections and opportunities for the road network into these North Caledonia employment lands. That public information session has not been scheduled at this point, but it is something that the MTO is looking at holding in the not too distant future from there. There was another question here, and I might look to Leidy to answer this off the top, but the question is, do you have any specific companies who have expressed an interest in coming to the employment lands within Caledonia?
Thanks, Shannon, and thanks, Kelly, for your question. We continue to work with a number of development inquiries as well as the landowners on potential development for Caledonia. At this point, there's no specific companies that can be named, but we do continue to receive interest and inquiries on the lands.
Wonderful. Thank you, Leidy. Another question just popped up with respect to the MTO. Is could there be an access point to the Highway 6 extension when that is ever built? My understanding is no, that extension would be kind of a controlled intersect or a controlled corridor. But that would have to be kind of future conversations with the Ministry of Transportation. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. That's absolutely correct. When the time comes, I kind of chuckle when I say that because we have no idea when the time will come for MTO to construct that extension. It's kind of shrouded in mystery at this stage. But when the time comes and it's actually built, one of the benefits of that project being completed will be the fact that the existing Highway 6 leg that we were looking at just before on the image would ultimately be turned over to the county, and those absolute access restrictions or limitations would ultimately get lifted, and there'd be more flexibility in terms of access points directly to what is currently Highway 6, but would down the road be former Highway 6. So there would be a future benefit in terms of creating more flexibility for development within the what we're referring to as the Phase 2 lands. But when that happens, we really have no ability to pin that down at this stage, just given the MTO doesn't have it on their radar in terms of a capital project.
Thanks, Mike. I might also pose this next question back your way, Mike, just in terms of some of your higher level conversations with the senior management team. Is there any consideration to lowering development charges to attract new businesses?
And the short answer to that is no, we're not considering that type of thing at this time.
Thank you. I'm just looking through here. Not seeing any other questions popping up at the moment. Generally speaking, as noted, there will be this kind of a version of this presentation with the final draft documents of the official plan amendment and the zoning bylaw amendment will be presented to council for their consideration and their decision. Further notices will be provided for that meeting date. Neil, can you remind me when we're looking at that public meeting date before council is?
Yeah, so we're currently targeting the May 19th CIC meeting, which relating to some of the questions going back to comments making into the staff recommendation report, that's the April 20th date. So staff will be wrapping up our reporting cycle or moving it through its review anyways around April 20th, then to be presented to council and committee on May 19th. Just while I have the microphone too, for those who are looking for, as we finalize draft copies of those amendments, a future copy of this presentation, those are all going to be posted to the North Caledonia Employment Lands Feasibility and Servicing Study webpage, which is the link there on the screen. So for those who are interested in seeing some of those materials as they get finalized, feel free to reach out to me and I can add your name to a list to receive those when they are finalized. But if you're chatting with others or if you more of a passing interest, do keep an eye on that website and the materials will be there ahead of the meeting for you to have a chance to take a look at those.
Great, thank you for that summary again. Just scrolling up and down on the Q&A window here one more time, and nothing else has popped in at this point. And I think there's some great information presented, some excellent questions that have been raised at this point. And as Neil just identified, that there will be this information will be available to everybody via the North Caledonia Employment Lands website. And both Neil and Rob are available for any follow-up questions, and the county is happy to receive any additional commentary from there. Just thanks everybody for their presentations. Just a note from Mayor Bentley. Thank you, Mayor Bentley, for attending tonight. We appreciate your participation and involvement here this evening. Mike, I saw your hand pop up there. Did you have anything you wanted to add right now?
It went up to acknowledge Mayor Bentley's attendance and to thank her, but then you mentioned that, so I put my hand down. But because you put me on the spot, there it is. Yes, thank you, Mayor Bentley.
All right, great. Thanks, Mike. And yes, thank you, Mayor Bentley, again, just for attending and for your support through the process as we go through tonight. As noted, we'll have some additional information notifications that will go out to circulated property owners, as well as members of the public, and that will be a public meeting. So again, anybody would have that opportunity to speak at that public meeting before council and committee in May. And I am not seeing any other questions or comments that are popping up at this point. So I would just like to take one more opportunity to thank everybody who has attended tonight for your questions, for your involvement in the session. Appreciate any feedback that you have to help build a strong opportunity for an economic land base within the north area of Caledonia, and to help the community continue to grow and prosper. And thank you to Neil and Rob for your presentation this evening. Very informative, great direction that's there. And Mike and Lydie and Amanda as well for your support through this session. With that, I think we can call our session tonight to a close and get a little bit of time back in everybody's calendar for this evening, and enjoy the night that we still have left here. So thank you, everybody. Hope you have a wonderful evening, and we look forward to any further comments or questions that you have going forward with respect to the North Caledonia employment lands. Thank you so much. Good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night.